The S&P 500 and the Nasdaq 100. Now I want to start the video off. And look, hey, I got to be honest with you guys. When I'm wrong about an opinion, I got to admit when I'm wrong. And look, you've had half the Fed saying one thing, the other half saying the other. Maybe I got onto the side of a little bit of bias. I can admit when I'm wrong. FedPal comes out today, says restrictive rates policy needs more time to work, insinuating more of a pause, staying where we're at and no rate cuts for a little bit of time. Okay, his words. Now, I wanted to say right now, this does not mean you're staying here until the end of the year. I personally think rate cuts will happen this year. You're still pricing in 3 rate cuts this year, and that's from the Fed's tone and kind of multiple Fed members have said this, right? Now, when we go back into what's happening here on the S&P 500, we go into the 4-hour chart and look what's happening here. You are breaking down and you're holding down below. Now, if you're looking at the downside play here, I'm not going to lie, this is ultimately what you would have wanted in a perfect downside scenario here. Now, let's talk about what's happening. Now, we had all of our levels here that you've seen, the 18K level, but then the breakdown kind of occurred. And this is where things look really bad. But I want to say, okay, I'm not jumping the gun here. When it comes to going short, I think it's more of day trades. I don't love holding shorts overnight personally yet. I'm still on the fence, but this is bad. So when I go out really quick to the weekly, this is the concern. This is your 2021 high, and you are below that level right now. So as you go back to the 4-hour, you can see you are flagging back into that level. It's a little bit wicky, but it is what it is. You are flagging back into that 2021 high, and that's where you're at. It doesn't look ideal, okay? That's not a good look. That's not what you want to see. So let's be very transparent, very clear. Downside into almost 17.7, 17.65. That's what I'd be looking at here. Now, I think Qs and SPY give you a better visual of our key levels we've been tracking. Now, Discord, you guys saw me post this. You didn't really get the breakdown today. You kind of been just like back and forth, back in like a pinball. Kind of like I'm playing like, Pong or some shit. This is terrible. So you're rejecting at our level we mentioned in the previous videos around 432.7. So a lot of rejections all day long rejecting. I think you have downside into that gap fill locally around 426, 425.5. That's where I'd be looking for us to come down into. You have a little bit of support here around 427.5, but that's where I'm looking at. I think this could hit very soon. And it's also in line with the terrible news across the board from Iran. And what's happening with Israel. It's just not a good look, okay? SPY, you didn't even get the retest of your level. You just look terrible. Like ES is just not holding on. You're holding below your level right here as well. Just to give you a visual. Previous lows there. Not a good look. Target around 497, maybe 498, 498.5. So again, $5 downside opportunity there. And again, that's where we're at. Again, when the price action really does flip, and I do believe this is what flipping of the price action looks like. That's what you want to see. Okay, now there's a few things that concern me. Okay, I do want to highlight some of those concerns, but also too, before I forget, if you see the indicators, supply and demand zones, what's happening here, I always hide this one. I don't like to keep it on my screen because it's a little bit ugly. I only use it when I'm day trading, but our volume buying versus selling, that link is down below. If you're interested, use code OD40 for 40% off, just to let you know. 40% off your one-time payment, so take advantage of that while you can. It will eventually be done, so do what you can with that. Right now, what I want to look at here, there's only one little thing that's kind of bothering me on S&P, Nasdaq, etc. And the volume is not amazing. Now, we had some good volume coming into Monday. We highlighted yesterday. We're like, this is interesting, a little sporadic behavior. But the volume today kind of trash. Not gonna lie, it's pretty abysmal. We want to see some uptick in volume. However, I do want to say you don't need consistent increased volume to move in a direction. You just need to see increased volume on the reversal. So I will say Friday and into Monday with really breaking those massive key levels, you did get an increase of volume. So that is something that, and I mentioned yesterday, that's something that you like to see if you were bearish. But again, things that I'm kind of keeping track of where we're at right now. And one more thing, guys, before I forget, my favorite personal investing platform, all my money's on those guys right now. I switched over from TOS. I'm using Moomoo personally. This is where I do all my market research, fundamental analysis. It's all here done on Moomoo. And they're building a platform like geared around options traders, and like that's why we're working with them, just based on the relationship we have with them. They're giving my followers an opportunity to earn some good sign-up bonuses, so make sure you check them out. The link is down below. I appreciate it. you know, have fun, check them out if you want. Now, going back into what's happening with the S&P, let's go into the DXY and what's happening here. Now, the dollar has been a concern. If we go to the dollar on the daily, again, like I got to call a spade, right? Dollar's going rippy right now, straight up. Okay. Now, I want to highlight. I do not necessarily think this means that we're going into a prolonged period of downside by any means. Okay. Can the pullback be aggressive here? It can be, now that we've lost those major levels. However, I want to make it really clear. I don't think this is like we're flipping to a bear market. So before you start asking those questions, please understand that. Make that really clear. DXY has about like $1 more of upside. Also going down into the 30-year yield, tracking to the upside, following, you know, the dollar. Pretty strong, very concerning, right? This is now concerning with everything how it's moving. So again, the only good case scenario for the market right now is that the Israel-Iran conflict resolves, and yeah, money just flows back into the market. I'm going to tell you right now, though, the reason I don't believe that this is a prolonged period of downside, I personally believe big money will be buying up the dip. That's my opinion. That is my opinion. Now, when I say buying, does that mean they're doing weeklies? No. They are going to be averaging in for dated positions based on how we're moving as a market. So please understand that. Like, I mean, I don't know how else to say it. Some people like run with some of the stuff I say, and I'm just like, I don't know how we got there. But again, that's what I'm looking at. That's what I'm looking at, and that's what I'm viewing. So understand that. The Dow also is a little bit of a concern, showing a lot of weakness. The Dow, if you start breaking below, 37.7, you could touch back into the 200 SMA. That's like a real possibility here, based on how weak the Dow has been. So things to consider. You do have more Fed members speaking here on the week. So I will say that, the same calendar we went over yesterday, all week long you have Fed members speaking. So, I expect some ups and downs. Okay, especially with what's happening in the Middle East. Can only say that so much. Like, don't get crazy. I don't think you're guaranteed to move in our direction. I think this is definitely one of the choppier areas. But I will say, in the short term, scalps, you officially favor the downside. In the short term, I have to make that really clear. Okay, the Twitter link is also in the bio if you want to check out what we're looking at, different charts throughout the day. So make sure you check that out. Been a little bit slow for me, but again, what I'm doing, what I'm viewing. Okay, let's go over some equities real quick. Knock this out. Nvidia. Now this is my viewpoint of what's happening. Despite this pain on Nasdaq, like Nvidia is holding up. And now, granted, I'm not gonna say like Nvidia is gonna hold the entire market up, but Nvidia is doing really well. Names like AMD are pulling back, but ultimately too, we are coming back into earnings season. Netflix reports this Thursday, TSM this Thursday. The next week we have a lot of heavier earnings coming in. So that's what I'm saying too. These earnings are going to be very, very influential. And it's like when you start to get downside of the market, just like in the beginning of the year when we had downside in the broad market, remember those earnings that came in early January and late January, early February? I mean, they were amazing and they carried us back up all the way into early March. So that's the problem with the downside here is like, do you think that those earnings are going to start missing? And I can't say that that's going to happen just yet. I'm going to say that right now. But for Nvidia, you're operating below 876, so I think you have downside potential down to 841. Under 841, you can see 823. That's the gap fill. We never filled that gap, so I think it's highly likely that you start to fill it. To get really bullish, you got to get it back above 924 or at least 897 in the short term. AMD, they actually got a buy rating from HSBC, I believe, today. But one trade that I've been watching pretty close is the 164 rejection here. Now, if you don't know, this is the 2021 high. Let me make that really clear. Okay, so previous all-time high, 2021, 2022, right here. You're rejecting off that level. Under this level, I think you have a lot of weakness. Now, if you break 158, I think you're dropping quick down to 151. Keep it on your radar. Easy name to watch. I would definitely be tracking. Netflix has earnings this week. I'd definitely be watching them, would not be trading them, staying clear of this name. I think they could easily beat. And we also know Netflix gets a majority of its earnings move post earnings, not before or during the earnings day. So keep that on your radar as well. Meta, a lot of weakness here, below 504, the same key level as you talked about. Under 504, 494, under 494. This thing could come down into our next level around 484, which is also a level marked off from a Lux Algo indicator as well into roughly 480. So a lot of weakness here on Meta under 504. That's the major inflection point we've been talking about for kind of weeks. Amazon was having a lot of strength. You're probably coming back down into 180. the top of that ascending triangle that we had in that breakout. Watch that. Google, it's trying to hold up, all things considered, but like you get back below 153.7, that's your previous all-time high from late January. You get back below that, you're probably coming back down into 150. Pretty simple, pretty easy. Those are the biggest names. Now, Tesla, they've just been like trash, I'm not gonna lie. Ideally, you'd love to see a retest of 160.5 previous lows, but I don't know if you're gonna get that. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't know if that's gonna happen. That's this year's lows. You would love to see a retest. We'll see what happens, but not looking optimistic. Okay, those are my favorite names right now, at least on the downside play. Not really going to go short on Apple personally. Do what you want to do. It's just a lot of support around this area. Those are my favorite names. Also, too, Microsoft is pulling back. You're sitting around the 415 level. You got to start breaking below the 412, 413 level to get weak. But yeah, you still have a lot of support there. So I'm just like steering clear. I've gone over the names I like if I'm trading downside. I've shown you the levels where I'd be looking for. Have a good one. If you have questions, comment down below. See you tomorrow.